U.S. Farm Report on the road from the 2025 NCBA Cattle Convention is brought to you by Corteva Agriscience Range and Pasture Products. Slam the gate on weeds and brush. And by Merck Animal Health. At Merck Animal Health, we are shaping the future of animal health with pioneering science and innovative technology solutions for our customers. We are proud to introduce SenseHub Cow-Calf, a first-of-its-kind technology to optimize reproductive management in beef cows.
Welcome back to U.S. Farm Report this weekend from right here at CattleCon in San Antonio. We have a great marketing roundtable. I told you before the break, Casey Mabry, as well as Don Close and Daryl Peel, really to take a deep dive into these markets. Daryl, let's start by looking at the most recent USDA cattle inventory report. I mean, we knew that this cattle herd was shrinking, but it seems to just keep shrinking. Is there any signs that we're slowing down?
There are signs that we're slowing down. We certainly got smaller in 2024. That was actually kind of obvious about a year ago when you looked at heifer numbers. If you look at the heifer numbers in this report, we don't have a lot, and so we're gonna be challenged going forward to stop this liquidation. I think we might stabilize numbers this year, but I think growth is pretty much a long shot at this point.
I mean, Don, at this point, how low can we go?
I think we're getting really close to seeing the thing bottom. I think as Daryl referenced, I think the challenge is retaining enough heifers out of the supply that we have to provide the fuel for the build back.
Yeah, I mean, Casey, when you look at that report, there was a lot to take in from that report on Friday, but what was the biggest surprise for you?
The biggest surprise to me was really looking at the total calf crop report, because we're looking at the total cow inventory numbers. I think that probably caught some people off guard, having the calf crop a little bit bigger than what most people's expectations were.
Yeah, so when you look then, I mean, maybe there's signs, maybe we're thinking about starting to rebuild, and there's some of those hints. What is it going to take to change producers' mind, Daryl?
Well, I think it's mostly a matter of time. I mean, producers have to change their expectations. I think coming into this, producers needed high prices. They needed to recover financially. They needed to be able to sell stuff. We've got a lot of that done now, maybe not completely. But the other thing is we need to have some notion that this is going to last long enough that we want to make this investment. And that takes a little time to change those expectations, but I do think it's happening.
Well, and Don, last year, I remember you made the point that, we're seeing some of these older producers exit the business, getting out while these prices are high. Since then, have we seen more producers, and is that a concern when you look at possibly rebuilding?
We've continued to see an active pace of total dispersal sales. Certainly with the appetite that we have had for cull cows for a year to 18 months now, those cows are readily removed from the system. I think I'd follow up with what are they looking for as that trigger to start the rebuild. I think we're finally getting the price message across. But as we continue to hear concerns from the weather people and the risk of La Nina, and will they have the grass to support extra numbers, is probably a holding point right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Casey, we've seen cash cattle hit records. I mean, as you look at the rest of this year, what are some of your price projections right now?
Yeah, so incentive drives outcome, and obviously with grain prices as cheap as they've been and cattle prices as high as they've been, we've held on to some cattle. So it's kept the front end of the market really, really tight, and it's kept packers chasing after cattle. So it ran $10 or $15 higher, in my opinion, what we should have really here on the front end. And so it's going to be really interesting to see how we go through the back end of this thing. We probably got to work through some stuff right here on the front end. But if the analysts continue to say we're going to be tighter and demand stays pretty good, we'll probably see prices exceed where we were before.
Don, do you agree with that?
I do. I think with the cost of gain and the value of gain ratio as out of balance as it is, there's every incentive to cattle feeders to continue to make them bigger. The one thing that I am concerned with, if you take the 50-pound escalation in live weights that we saw in 24, but if you look at the 1,000-pound carcass discounts, it kind of a soft rule right now, but also for the grid sellers, As they get those steers big enough that they're starting to get yield grade 4s and 5s and start looking at carcass discounts, that's going to put a cap on how much additional weight we can put on the cattle that are on feed today.
Other news this week, reopening the southern border to feeder cattle from Mexico. We're going to talk about that real quick, though. We need to take a quick break, and then we'll be back with more U.S. Farm Report.